Okay, so to start us off today, I want to try and put you in a very specific headspace.
All right, I'm ready.
I want you to picture this. You're standing in line at a coffee shop. Let's say it's, I don't know, 8:30 on a Tuesday morning. It is peak chaos.
Oh, I know this scene. The witching hour of caffeine addiction.
Exactly. You've got the grinder just screaming in the background, the baristas yelling out orders, you know, oat milk latte for Sarah, the
Yeah.
clatter of mugs. Your cortisol is just spiking.
Right, because you're probably running 5 minutes late for a meeting you didn't even want to go to.
Yes.
Sure.
You're checking your watch, you're checking your phone. The whole vibe is just pure concentrated stress.
I can feel my blood pressure rising just hearing you describe it.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And then right in front of you,
Huh.
the line does that little shuffle forward.
Mm-hmm.
You see it. Just a small blink and you miss it kind of moment.
Okay.
One person who is clearly in just as much of a hurry as everyone else, they take a step back. They catch the eye of the person behind them. And maybe it's a parent wrestling with a stroller or just someone who looks completely frazzled. And they give that little nod. You know the nod I'm talking about.
Oh, I know the nod. The universal, you go first.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's it. It's not this grand gesture.
Yeah.
They didn't pay for everyone's coffee. They didn't make a big speech. They just yielded. They gave up a little bit of space.
An act of what our source material today calls quiet kindness.
It's a beautiful phrase, isn't it? Quiet kindness.
It really is.
And here's the question. Even though you're just watching this, you're not the one getting the favor. You're just a bystander. What happens inside of you physically in that moment?
Oh, instantly. Your shoulders drop. It's like the ambient temperature in the room just goes down a few degrees. It's a real physiological response to just witnessing a little bit of decency.
Exactly. It sticks with you. You carry that tiny little nugget of calm out the door with you. And that image, that specific feeling of seeing quiet kindness is actually where our deep dive starts today.
But, and I'm guessing there's a twist here.
There's a twist. We're not talking about being kind to strangers in coffee lines.
No, we are flipping the camera around. We're turning that lens inward. Today, we are diving deep into the concept of self-love.
Now wait, hold on, because I can almost hear the collective eye roll from our listeners right now.
Yeah, you say self-love and people immediately tune out.
They think, okay, here we go, bubble baths, scented candles, and saying positive affirmations into the mirror.
Which is fair, to be honest. The term has been completely hijacked by marketing. It's become this buzzword for, like, vanity projects.
But I'm going to stop you right there, because the material we are digging into today, which comes from a really fascinating source, this philosophy they call the English leap, it frames this completely differently. It argues that self-love isn't fluffy. It's not soft at all. It is actually a rigorous practical discipline.
It's not a luxury item. It's a prerequisite. The core argument we're going to unpack today is that loving yourself isn't selfish. It's the absolute baseline requirement for functioning in the world in a healthy way.
The old oxygen mask on the airplane analogy.
It's exactly that. If you don't do it, you can't really be there for anyone else, not in a meaningful way.
And what I love about this English leap approach is how it breaks it down into these actionable habits. We're not just talking about vague feelings. We are talking about invisible rules and inner price tags and even emotional remote controls.
It's surprisingly tactical, isn't it? It's about the actual mechanics of how we relate to ourselves.
Right. So the mission for this deep dive is to try and uncover some of those invisible rules we're all living by, usually without even realizing it, and figure out how to reset the standard for how the world is allowed to treat us.
So where do we start? What's the first gear in this machine?
Let's get right into it. The source material kicks off with this really powerful metaphor, something they call the inner price tag.
Right. And this ties directly back to that idea of quiet kindness we started with. The premise is, it's really simple, but if you sit with it for a minute, it's kind of devastating.
It is.
The way you treat yourself is a lesson. It's a constant, ongoing lesson to the world on how to treat you.
Okay, I want to pause on this price tag idea because, I'll be honest, when I first read this in the source material, I bristled a little bit.
You had some resistance to it.
I did, yeah. Because on the surface, it sounds a little bit like victim blaming, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If someone is treating me badly, my boss is yelling at me, or a friend is taking advantage of me, it feels, harsh to say, well, look at the price tag you wrote.
Yeah, it feels like you're letting the bad actor off the hook.
Exactly.
And that is such a crucial distinction to make. The material is very, very specific about this. This is not about absolving the other person of responsibility. A jerk is still a jerk. Bad behavior is still bad behavior. If someone is cruel to you, that is on them, 100%.
Okay, so how do we square that circle? If it's on them, how is it also about my price tag?
Think of it less as blame and more like data transmission. The source argues that we human beings are pretty efficient creatures. We're constantly, usually subconsciously, scanning our environment to figure out what the rules of engagement are.
We're looking to see what we can get away with.
Basically, yeah, like water finding the crack in the pavement. If you are constantly sending out a signal that says, my time is worthless, I have no needs of my own, and you can interrupt me whenever you want, people, even good people, even people who love you, will eventually start to believe you.
They aren't trying to be malicious.
Not at all. They're just operating based on the instruction manual you handed them.
So the price tag isn't about morality. It's an instruction manual.
Precisely. You don't walk into a room and announce, hello, everyone, please treat me poorly, or please respect my time. But your behavior broadcasts it constantly. If you value yourself clearly, other people tend to follow that lead. But if you don't, well, you're teaching them something else entirely.
And this leads right into what the source calls the yes person trap.
Oh.
And I think a lot of us are going to feel this one.
Oh, yeah.
It starts out so innocently, doesn't it? You want to be helpful. You want to be seen as reliable. You want to be the good guy.
And those are good qualities. That's the insidious part of the trap. At first, it feels like a compliment. Oh, you can always count on him. Or she's always so available. It feels good to be needed.
It really does.
Yeah.
But the source points out this very clear and kind of scary progression. It starts as a single act of helpfulness. Then, if you're not careful, that helpfulness solidifies into a habit.
And then the habit hardens into a role.
A role. Exactly. You become the one who always says yes.
Yeah.
Even when you're completely exhausted, even when you're drowning in your own stuff.
And the really scary part is, once it becomes your role, it becomes an expectation. It's no longer a favor you're doing for someone. It's just what you do. It's your job description in that relationship.
There was this specific anecdote in the source that, man, it just really hit home for me. It was about this person who had a friend, I'll call her Sarah, who would message really late at night. Not every night, but often enough.
Yeah.
11 p.m., midnight. Just sort of dumping her emotional problems or asking random questions. And the person telling the story admitted, I would reply even when I was half asleep.
And why? Because he's telling himself, it's fine, I'm just being a good friend.
Right, I'm just being nice.
Yeah.
That is the mantra that gets us into so much trouble. But the source describes this as a slow leak. That kind of nice starts to steal your rest. It's like your energy is slowly leaking out of a tire little by little.
So you wake up tired, but you tell yourself you're a good friend.
You do. And then comes the turning point. And I really want everyone to listen closely to this dynamic because I guarantee you have lived some version of this.
Okay.
One night, the person didn't reply, just for an hour. Maybe they fell asleep early, who knows? One single night of silence. And the next day, the friend, Sarah, asks, where were you?
But not in a concerned way.
No, with a serious tone, like he'd done something wrong, like he'd failed at his job. Where were you? I needed you.
Wow. And that is the moment of realization. That specific reaction, that little bit of accusation in her voice, it proves the whole theory.
How so?
The person telling the story had trained the friend to expect instant access. The friend wasn't necessarily being a villain. She was just operating on the schedule that he had created for her.
That is such a tough pill to swallow. Because our first instinct is to blame the demanding friend. We want to say, wow, Sarah is so clingy and entitled.
Of course.
But the source is saying, no, hang on. Look at the price tag you set. You set the price at instant availability 247. You literally trained her to expect it.
It's Pavlovian, really. You rang the bell every single time she texted. Of course she learned to expect dinner to appear.
So the lesson here isn't to just stop being kind. We're not saying you should become a hermit and never answer your phone again.
No, absolutely not. Human connection is vital. The lesson is that, as the source puts it so well, kindness needs a limit. Or, I think they also said, kindness needs a line. If your kindness has no bottom, you will absolutely drown in it.
Which brings us, inevitably, to the big B word.
Boundaries. The most popular and, I would argue, the least understood word in mental health right now.
I feel like boundaries has become this buzzword we hear all the time, and
Mm.
usually it's used in this really aggressive way, like,
Oh.
I am putting up a wall, stay out, you are toxic.
It sounds like a declaration of war.
It does, it sounds very confrontational, but the English leap philosophy offers a totally different metaphor that I think is so much more
The
helpful.
doors, not walls idea.
Exactly. This is such a crucial distinction. A wall is a total blockage. It shuts people out completely. It's rigid, it's defensive, it's permanent. But a boundary, a healthy boundary, should be a door.
I love this image. I really do. Because a door has a handle.
It has a handle.
You can open it, you can be warm, you can be welcoming. But, and this is the absolutely key, you are the one holding the handle. You are in control of the mechanism. You decide who gets to come in. You decide how long they get to stay. You decide what kind of behavior is allowed inside your room. And, most importantly, you decide when it's time to close the door so you can rest.
It's about agency. It's not about isolation. It's about regulation. But let's be real here. When you start closing that door, especially if it's been swinging wide open for, like, the last 10 years, people are going to notice.
Oh, they definitely notice. The source material is very blunt and honest about this. When you set a new boundary, the people who benefited from your lack of boundaries are going to get uncomfortable. In fact, they might even get angry.
They'll say, wait, why is the door shut? It's always open. What's wrong? Do you hate me now?
All of that. And the source makes a really compassionate point here that I think is important. The discomfort doesn't mean those people are evil. It doesn't mean they're bad friends or bad family members. It just means they're adjusting to a new standard.
It's a new standard. I like that phrasing. It reframes the whole conflict. It's not a fight. It's a recalibration.
It is. But let's get into the weeds here for a second, because saying boundaries or doors is the easy part. Actually standing there and holding the handle, that's the hard part.
It feels incredibly heavy sometimes.
The source touches on something here that I think most self-help books just completely miss. They tell you to set the boundary, but they don't warn you about the hangover.
A boundary hangover,
Yes. Because what happens the first time you actually close that door on a friend who's used to just walking right in? What happens when you tell your boss, for the first time ever, actually, I can't take that call at 8 p.m. tonight?
You feel like a monster. You feel selfish. Your heart starts racing. You're just waiting for the angry text message that says, fine, be that way.
Exactly. The source calls this the discomfort gap. There's this gap in time between setting the boundary and actually feeling good about it. And that gap is filled with guilt. Thick, heavy, awful guilt.
And I think that's where most of us fold. We close the door, the guilt kicks in like a tidal wave, and we panic and fling the door back open and say, just kidding, I'm sorry. Come in, take whatever you want. Just please don't be mad at me.
And in that moment, you just destroyed the price tag we were just talking about. You've reset the price to zero.
So how do we survive that discomfort gap? How do we stand there, holding the handle, feeling the burn of that guilt, and not cave?
I think you have to go into it knowing that the discomfort is part of the process. It's growing pains. You have to believe deep down that you deserve to have a door in the first place. You can't just fake the action. You have to believe your rest is valid.
And that leads us right into the deep end of the pool here, which is the whole idea of self-worth versus validation. Because if you don't think you're worth protecting, you're never going to keep that door shut.
And these are two terms that people often use interchangeably, self-worth and validation. But in the context of this deep dive, they're opposites. They are enemies.
Okay, so let's define them based on our source material. Self-worth is the internal core belief that you have value as a human being, period.
Full stop.
Full stop. Not because you were productive today, not because you had a good English day, since this source comes from a language learning context, but just because you exist.
Right. It's unconditional. It's the floor that you stand on. Whereas validation it's all external. It's seeking that confirmation from the outside, world, money, looks, approval, likes on social media, retweets.
The source uses a really fascinating analogy here, since it comes from that language learning philosophy. It's about fluency versus worth. And I think it clarifies this perfectly.
Oh, this is such a great breakdown. So, okay, imagine a student who's learning English. On Tuesday, they have a great day. The words are flowing. Their grammar is perfect. They can understand the movie they're watching without subtitles.
They feel like a genius. Their sense of worth just spikes.
Right. They're on top of the world. I am smart. I am capable. But then on Wednesday, they stumble. They forget a simple word. They make a clumsy mistake in front of a native speaker. And suddenly they feel stupid. They feel small. They want to just crawl into a hole and disappear.
Their worth crashes because their performance crashed.
Exactly. They have tethered their core identity to their daily output. The English leap philosophy argues that real self-love is realizing that the student is worthy of respect on Tuesday and on Wednesday. The fluency can fluctuate, the worth has to be a constant.
That is actually really hard to internalize
Right.
because our whole world rewards output. The world loves a good English day. The world loves the promotion. The world loves the win.
It does. Which is why this is a discipline. It's a conscious practice. You have to actively separate the performance graph from the value graph. One of them is supposed to move up and down. The other should be a straight, flat line.
The source used another incredible analogy for this, for the danger of validation that I think everyone needs to hear. It's the remote control analogy.
This is one of the most memorable images in the whole text. I think about this one all the time.
So imagine you post something online, a picture, a thought, an article, whatever. You feel good about it. You're proud of what you shared. Then one person, a total stranger, an anonymous account with a cartoon profile picture, writes a rude comment. And instantly, your entire mood just crashes.
The source describes it as if that stranger is holding a literal remote control for your emotions. They press a button, click, and you're sad. Click, now you're angry. Click, now you're insecure for the rest of the day.
It's terrifying when you think about it that way. You are literally handing the control panel of your own brain over to someone you don't even know.
And why does that one stranger have so much power? Because, as the source says, you are borrowing your worth from the outside. If your worth is a loan you've taken out from other people's opinions, they can call in that debt at any moment. They can foreclose on your happiness with one nasty comment.
Oof. Borrowing your worth. That hits deep. It makes you realize how precarious that position is. You're always one rude comment away from emotional bankruptcy.
You really are.
So how do we get the remote back? How do we snatch it out of their hands?
You have to adopt a mantra. The source suggests this one, and I love it. My worth is not up for discussion.
My worth is not up for discussion. Say that again?
My worth is not up for discussion. It's a declaration. It means you can critique my work. You can dislike my shirt. You can disagree with my opinion. You can even think my English is bad. But none of those things get to touch the core value of who I am as a person.
My worth is in a vault, and you don't have the combination.
You don't have the combination, exactly. It reminds me of another phrase they used, I'm enough even while I'm improving. That seems to be the antidote to that feeling of, I have to be perfect to be valuable.
Yes. And when you really start to internalize that, you stop what the source calls living for an audience.
The performance.
That's the performance, right? The constant scanning of the room to see if people are clapping for you. When you stop doing that, you can finally do what the source calls meeting yourself.
But, and here's the catch, you can't meet yourself if you don't know who you are. And this brings us to the actual mechanics of self-awareness. The source argues you cannot love yourself if you do not know yourself.
Which seems obvious on the surface, but I think most of us are strangers to our own internal workings. We just react. We don't really know why.
We don't. And the source breaks this down into two main mechanical components, batteries and triggers.
Let's start with the battery thief. I think we all have a few of those in our lives, whether they're people or habits.
Yeah, the question the source asks is simple. What drains you? We have to identify the leaks. And a battery thief isn't always a person. It can be a habit.
They specifically call out doom scrolling.
A very, very modern battery thief. It's 11:30 at night. You're tired. Your body wants to sleep. But instead, you open the news app. Or you open Twitter. And you just scroll. Bad news, anger, debate, outrage, catastrophe.
And you can literally feel your energy just draining out of your toes.
Exactly. It drains your battery slowly, like watching your phone tick down 10%, 5%, 1%. And then you wake up the next morning feeling completely exhausted, not because you didn't get enough sleep, but because you spent your precious rest time fighting imaginary wars in your head.
And people can be battery thieves too, and not necessarily bad people. We aren't just talking about toxic villains here.
Right. It could be a perfectly nice neighbor who just talks at you for 45 minutes about their lawn when you're just trying to get your groceries inside. The source calls these people drainers. And self-awareness is simply noticing that without judgment.
So it's not saying, I'm weak because that conversation tired me out.
No. It's saying, oh, that's interesting. Interacting with that specific dynamic drains my battery. I need to protect my energy around that. It's just data.
And then there are the triggers. They describe them as buttons.
Yeah, a button is such a great visual. Someone pushes it, maybe with a specific sentence, a certain look, a tone of voice, and boom. You either explode with anger or you shrink into yourself.
And that shrinking is really interesting because that leads to one of the most pervasive habits mentioned in this deep dive, The sorry habit.
Oh, this is a massive issue, particularly for people who struggle with their self-worth. It's the reflex of apologizing for just existing.
I see this all the time. I do it. I catch myself typing an email to a colleague and saying, sorry, can I just ask a quick question?
Hmm.
Or, sorry to bother you, but here's that file you asked for. Why am I apologizing for doing my job?
The source puts it very bluntly. When you apologize too much, you are sending a message. And that message is, I don't deserve to take up space. You're apologizing for the inconvenience of your own existence.
There was a little banter segment in the source about a coworker who started every single helpful message with, sorry I fixed that bug for you. Sorry I brought donuts for the team. And you just want to shake them and say, you don't need to shrink.
You don't need to shrink. That is the core message. Sorry so often becomes a way to ask permission to be present. It's a preemptive strike. If I apologize first, maybe you won't get mad at me. But if you have self-worth, you know your presence is already valid. You don't need a permit.
So, okay, we've got the battery thief, we've got the sorry habit, but the biggest enemy might not even be outside of us at all. It might be inside our own heads. Which brings us to the inner critic versus the inner friend.
Ah, yes, the bully in the mind.
The source points out something that is so painfully true. We say things to ourselves, you're useless, you always fail. Why are you even like this? That we would never in a million years say to a friend.
Never. If your friend came to you and said, "Ugh, I made a huge mistake at work today," would you ever respond, well, that's because you're an idiot and nobody likes you?
God, no. Of course not. You'd say, hey, it happens to everyone. You'll fix it. Let's go get a coffee.
Exactly. We are the gentle, compassionate caretaker for everyone else and the ruthless tyrant for ourselves. It's this massive double standard. And the source offers a really helpful metaphor to deal with this voice. Fog versus flashlight.
Explain that one. I loved this imagery because I'm a very visual learner.
So fear, which is the language of the inner critic, is fog. Fog makes everything look big and scary and completely undefined. You can't see the edges of the problem, so it feels infinite and overwhelming.
I made a mistake becomes I am a failure forever.
That's fog. It just surrounds you. You can't see a way out.
And the flashlight.
Facts are flashlights. A flashlight cuts right through the fog and shows you what is actually there. It illuminates the edges of the problem. So the technique is when that inner critic starts screaming in fog language, you have to stop and ask yourself, is this a fact or is this fear?
That's a powerful question. Is this a fact or is this fear?
And usually it's fear. The fact might be, I made a typo in that important report. That's the solid object in the room. The fear is the fog swirling around it saying, everyone thinks I'm incompetent and I'm definitely going to get fired. The flashlight reveals the typo is just a typo. It has edges. It's finite. It's fixable.
And this connects to how we view mistakes in general, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The source says we need to reframe mistakes as just data.
Yes. This goes back to having a scientist's mindset. Mistakes are not evidence of bad character. They are not a verdict on your worth. They are just feedback. They're information. Okay, I tried X and Y happened. That didn't work. Noted. Next time I'll try Z.
It's scientific. It's not emotional or moral.
Exactly. Mistakes are stepping stones, not identity markers. You're supposed to step on them to get to the next place. You're not supposed to lie down on them and build a house there.
But okay, let's say we're doing the work. We're identifying the fog. We're trying to use the flashlight. We still have to interact with the world. And that means, sooner or later, we have to say that dreaded word.
No. The art of saying no. And, more specifically, saying it without the guilt.
The guilt trap. The source says that guilt has a big mouth.
It really does. It shouts at you. It calls you selfish. It tells you you're a bad person. But we have to remember the logic from earlier. Boundaries are doors, not walls. Saying no is simply closing the door for a little while so you can clean the room.
I found it super helpful that the source provided some actual scripts for this. Because in the moment, I often just freeze up. I don't know what to say, so I just start rambling and making excuses.
And the scripts were so simple, which is the whole point. Things like, I can't today, but thank you so much for asking, or I'm not available this week.
Short, clear, kind.
And notice what's missing from both of those scripts.
The excuse.
Yeah.
The long, elaborate story.
Exactly. The source calls this the 5-page essay called Please Still Like Me.
Oh, I have written that essay so many times. I'm so sorry I can't come to your party because my cat has been acting weird and my car is making a funny noise and I think I have a headache and I might have to work late.
It's the trap of over-explaining. When you over-explain your no, you are essentially asking the other person to validate your excuse. You're asking them to judge whether your reason is good enough for you to be allowed to say no.
Wow. You're handing them the remote control again. You're saying, here, you decide if my reason for staying home is valid.
Precisely. A simple "I'm not available" is a statement of fact. It requires no approval. It is a complete sentence.
But the fear, I think, is that if we say no without a good reason, we lose the relationship.
Yeah.
Or we lose our good person badge. We feel like we haven't earned the right to rest.
Which brings us back to that idea that happiness and rest are not rewards. The source says we treat happiness like dessert.
You can have your happiness, but only after you finish all your vegetables.
Right. Only after everything on the to-do list is perfect, only after every email has been answered, the house is spotless, the kids are happy, and everyone in your life is pleased with you. Then and only then can you finally sit down. But that state of perfection is a moving target.
It's a mirage. As soon as you get close to it, it just moves further away.
Exactly. If you wait for perfection to finally give yourself permission to rest, you will wait forever. You will die waiting.
So the alternative is to grab what they call small joys.
A slow cup of coffee, a clean room, a really good song in the car on the way to work. These aren't rewards for a job well done. They are the fuel that keeps the engine going. You take them during the chaos, not as a prize for surviving it.
I really like the idea of small joys because it feels so manageable. I don't need a 2-week vacation to the Bahamas to practice self-love. I just need to actually taste my coffee this morning without scrolling through bad news.
It's accessible. You can do it right now, and practicing that accessibility builds resilience, which is our next section, bouncing back.
Bounce back. Such an energetic phrase,
Yeah.
but what does it actually mean in this context?
The definition here is so important. Bouncing back does not mean nothing hurts. It doesn't mean you're made of stone or Teflon. It simply means you recover. You don't break yourself after a hard moment.
The source contrasts this with the spiral. You know that feeling something bad happens, you get a rejection letter or something, and you just spiral down. My life is over, I'm worthless, it's hopeless. Bouncing back is the arrest of that spiral.
And you do it through small wins. You don't look for one massive victory to fix your entire life. You look for a tiny brick.
A tiny brick.
Just getting out of bed, that's a brick. Answering one important email, that's a brick. Washing one dish in the sink, that's a brick. Walking around the block, that's another brick. You use these tiny, manageable bricks to build a wall of what the source calls quiet confidence.
So it's construction work. It's not magic. It's just laying one brick at a time until you feel stable again.
Correct. And the mortar that holds all those bricks together, forgiveness.
The heavy backpack. This is another great visual metaphor.
Yeah. The source describes carrying old guilt mistakes you made 5 years ago, embarrassing moments from high school, like you're carrying a heavy backpack full of rocks. If you are hiking up a mountain, which is just living your normal day, and you're carrying rocks from 10 years ago, of course the hike is going to feel impossible.
You ask yourself, why is this normal day so hard? Well, it's because you're carrying 50 pounds of useless regret on your back. You're hiking with all this extra weight.
So the solution is to forgive yourself. And let's be really clear here. The source says forgiveness is not saying the mistake was perfect. It's not saying, I did a great job messing that up. It's not delusional.
So what is it then?
It's simply saying, I am human, I made a mistake, I learned from it, and I deserve a fresh start.
I deserve a fresh start. That is so liberating to even hear.
It allows you to take the backpack off and put it down. You can just leave it on the side of the trail. And suddenly, the walk gets so much easier. You have more energy for the actual challenges of today because you're not fighting the ghosts of yesterday.
Now, before we wrap this up, we have to do something a little special. The source material, because it comes from this English Leet context, ended with something they called a word tour.
Right. They reviewed the key vocabulary. But for our deep dive, I think we should look at these words not just as vocabulary, but as a toolkit. These are the tools we've been discussing. I want to make sure everyone listening has these in their back pocket.
I love that, a toolkit. Okay, let's run through them. First up, standard.
This is your baseline. It's the personal rule that you live by. And remember, you set the standard and the world adjusts to it. If you raise your standard for how you treat yourself, the quality of your interactions will rise to meet it.
Next tool, reliable.
So being trustworthy. But the crucial nuance here, and this is the key takeaway, is that you can only be truly reliable for others if you have boundaries for yourself. If you say yes to everyone, you are actually reliable to no one. You have to be able to say no to sustain your yes.
Okay, next one.
Fragile.
This is the state you're in when you rely on external validation. If your worth is located outside of you, in the hands of that stranger with the remote control, you are fragile. If it's located inside, you are durable. You want to be durable.
And the next tool, Drain, the slow leak. The practice of identifying the people, habits, and thoughts that steal your battery life. And then making a conscious choice not to engage with them out of politeness. It's about plugging the leak.
And finally, regret versus fresh start.
This is the choice. And it is a choice. You can choose to keep looking back at the heavy backpack, or you can choose to look forward at the path ahead. It's the active decision to stop punishing yourself for being human.
That is a powerful vocabulary. It really gives you a language to talk about self-respect.
And that's really what self-love is at the end of the day, isn't it? It's a language. It's a way of speaking to yourself and a way of speaking to the world. And just like any language, you have to practice it to get fluent. You're going to have bad English days with self-love, too. You're going to slip up.
You're going to open the door when you probably shouldn't have. You're going to apologize when you don't need to.
Exactly. And when that happens, you don't beat yourself up. You just correct the grammar and keep speaking.
So we've covered the invisible price tag, doors not walls, the remote control, fog, and flashlight. It's a lot to take in.
It is a lot. It's a whole system. But it's also incredibly simple at its core.
So if there is just one thing, one single nugget from this whole deep dive that a listener takes away with them, what should it be?
It has to be the core premise we started with. The way you treat yourself teaches people how to treat you.
That's it. That's the tweet. That's the tattoo.
That's the headline. Everything else, all the boundaries, the self-talk, the forgiveness, all of that is just the methodology for living that one truth. If you treat yourself with rigorous respect, you teach the world to do the same. If you treat yourself like a doormat, don't be surprised when people wipe their feet.
And we don't want to just leave you with a concept. We want to challenge you. We want you to actually try this out in the wild this week.
Yes. The source suggests a small upgrade. Don't try to overhaul your entire personality by tomorrow morning. That's just a recipe for failure. Just choose one small upgrade.
Maybe it's setting one boundary, closing one door when you need to rest, even if it feels scary.
Or maybe it's just one kinder thought, catching that inner bully in the act and using the flashlight to find the facts instead of the fog.
Or maybe it's just saying no to something small without writing that 5-page essay of excuses. Just a simple, I can't make it.
Just one thing. See how it feels. See how the world responds. I think you'll be surprised. You might find that the world doesn't end. In fact, it might just start treating you a little bit better.
I think so too. This has been such a refreshing conversation. I honestly feel a little bit lighter just from talking about all this. It's like we just organized the mental closet.
It's always good to be reminded that we are in charge of our own price tags.
Absolutely. We really enjoyed unpacking this philosophy with you today. It's so simple on the surface, but it's incredibly deep when you get into it.
It really is.
Now, if you enjoy this discussion and you want more content like this, more deep dives into how we tick and how we can live a little bit better, we have a specific request for you.
Yes, please make sure to subscribe to the Mr. Cody channel.
That's Mr.Kodi, Mr. Cody. Subscribing there is the best way to make sure you don't miss out on any similar discussions.
It's the best way to stay connected and keep learning with us.
Thanks for listening. And remember, treat yourself well this week. You're the one setting the standard.
Take care, everyone.
Bye for now.